everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Discovery Pod with Eve. I am Eve Richards. I'm co-hosting today's episode with Carla Maria. She's an actress. She's a model. She's an entrepreneur. She interviews on the red carpets and she does it all. Carla, welcome back to another episode of the Discovery Pod with Eve. It's so good to host with you.
You as well. Thank you for having me back, Eve.
Of course. So, Carla, I know you've been very busy filming quite a few things. Please tell the audience some of the projects that you're working on.
Yeah, so right now, currently just started 2026 is a busy year to begin with. We're currently just began filming for a new reality series called Yachtessy, so taking place, on the water, on the yachts, kind of covering some of the boat scene, but also how it meshes with the entertainment industry between music, film, television, and also fashion included.
Wow.
And then also began working now on a horror film that is going to be filming and starting really to go majorly into production in February of this year.
That's fantastic. Congratulations on everything that you're doing,
Thank
that
you.
positive energy that you bring into every red carpet interview. So it's so great to host with you. So please go ahead and introduce.
Yeah, so today we've got a really special guest, Chadwick, and it is Pelletier. The English
Yeah, you
pronunciation.
pronounced
it
Okay, I hope so. Now, this man is absolutely extraordinary. American-Canadian filmmaker, WGA, screenwriter, entrepreneur, and founder of the DaVinci International Film Festival. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Chadwick. Now, there is just so many things that this man has accomplished. Now, obviously, I would love to know more about the film festival. We have so many things that we want to ask you, but is there anything in particular that you've got coming up right now that you'd like us to start with today?
Oh my goodness, loaded question off the gun. I kind of do a spray and pray with my life professionally, so I don't have anything really specific other than, I guess I do, other than the DaVinci Masquerade that we're hosting at the Cannes Film Festival this coming May. It's our second annual, and so that's pretty exciting. And a lot of my energy is going there right now.
Oh, I could only
Yeah,
imagine.
it's fantastic. And I gotta say, I met Chadwick and his wife and his kids at the DaVinci Film Festival, which he founded. And I was just so blown away by this film festival, the quality of the films. And you're also expanding to Africa. I
Oh,
believe maybe
exciting.
Kenya or somewhere in Africa. So please share with the audience
Yeah.
and our listeners
Yeah.
more about that initiative.
Yeah, and can I just say thank you for showing up and being there because that was super cool. And as a filmmaker myself, I just love connecting with creatives, and so it's cool to be here today. But I love when I get to meet and connect with people at DaVinci. So thank you for being there. Um, the DaVinci model, and we can kind of back into this in a later conversation. But what you're talking about as far as Kenya is concerned, we have satellite programs that are going into a number of different countries, and Kenya is one of them. I had the awesome privilege of being in Nairobi twice last year and getting the government support to launch a new program at DaVinci called Film Africa. And so Film Africa just spotlights and amplifies the voices that come out of that region of the world. I've always had a huge heart for Africa, and so being able to kind of cross-pollinate, if you will, their film work into the DaVinci ecosystem in LA was something pretty special. I think you got to experience a little bit of that opening night with our Film Africa opening night. So this is a model that we're looking to expand into a number of different areas of the world with what we're calling DaVinci Labs. So our labs program is going to be, and this is kind of my pie in the sky, but we're going to have a footprint in Europe and Asia, South America, Africa, maybe a couple countries in Africa, and the UAE. So that's kind of big picture, but I'm a big picture guy.
I love that. Beautiful. Wow. And so this is the second annual one that we have coming up, correct? So as of right now, people already
Yeah.
begun How many films are we expecting to be featured at the film festival for the second annual one?
Well, what I should say is that our second annual is the Masquerade. DaVinci International Film Festival is going into its eighth year, so this is our eighth edition, and it will be in September. It will be our eighth edition, um, and we get thousands of films submitted. As a boutique platform, though, we have only a few spots available. It's intentionally small. I keep it that way so I can connect with my filmmakers. Um, but out of thousands of entries, we showcase and screen maybe about 100 to 200 official selections.
Amazing.
Wow.
So, with so many
Yeah.
amazing works that are being submitted, what are the particular things that say you may be looking for, right? Because you've got so many to choose from.
Yes.
I couldn't even imagine how difficult that decision making process must be.
That's the worst part of it, to be honest with
Yeah,
you. If I
that's gotta be the
if I
That's
most.
could, if I
I'm like,
uh,
I'm like, how do they? I
yeah,
would not even know
yeah,
where to
that's a tough
begin.
one,
I'm
right?
like, oh my
Yes.
gosh.
it's so hard, and I'm a filmmaker too, so I have a big heart for filmmakers. I can both commiserate and celebrate and want to connect with them, and so when we can't put everybody on the screen, it's very, very challenging. But at the end of the day, there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much theater time and screen time, and so our jury is really tasked with a base camp to the top of Everest battle every year, especially as we get more submissions, because it's like now we're having to create these new online platforms so that we can at least give them some screen time. But I don't know how to answer your question. To be honest with you, it is so difficult, and we have a uh, very strict grading rubric. I would say. I mean, I pause there because I am creating more platforms online to just be able to give the filmmakers more opportunities to show their work. But it's tough. It's so tough. That's a very long way of saying it's so tough, and it will continue to be tough too.
So
Yes.
I was there in, I think it was in October. I don't remember the name of the
Hmm.
film, but it was based on a true story about what happens in Kenya to women who are young girls.
Hmm.
At young, when women are young, they are forced into marriage at such an early age.
Right.
And one of the films that won was this African film. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because
Maui.
that was so moving. And understanding that it was
Yeah.
not just based on its facts in terms of
Yeah.
what happens, but it was such a beautiful film. And thank you for bringing
Yes.
awareness to something that a lot of people do not even talk about, or
No,
us
about yeah.
here, we don't even know that exists in different parts of the world.
Yeah, that picture Naui is exceptional, and um, you know it pulls at the heartstrings. We have kind of this sidebar committee, if you will, that meets with pictures that are narrative, but also have this real component of almost docu storytelling. And at first, when that feature came across my desk, I didn't know how the audience would respond to it. Historically, I've had a couple films that have gotten through that cleared the theater because the subject matter was so intense. And I'm looking around, there's like two people sitting in the theater. I'm like, what? I shouldn't have shown this one. But Naui is such a beautiful cinematic experience. It delivers the subject matter in a way that is beautiful and consumable for audiences and really connects with them, even if you have no understanding of what's going on, no understanding of Africa, even. And so I was really excited about that particular picture and connected with the directors. One's German, the other one's Kenyan, and I said, this has to be our opening night." And so we opened Film Africa with the Naui picture.
Wow.
I think the filmmakers
I'm
did.
glad you enjoyed it, Eve, by the way.
I It wasn't so much about enjoying the film. I think I'm basically giving accolades to the filmmakers for honoring the way the
Mm,
story was told, the way the story was brought to life. And it made me feel like I was experiencing some of the challenges that those women were going through. The actress, the lead actress, the young
mhm.
gal who played that role of such a difficult subject, but it was so
Yeah.
powerful. And for me, that's the beauty of filmmaking, where the stories become so impactful that
Hmm.
even though I didn't remember the name,
Yeah,
I
you do.
still remembered watching it and that subject. And
Yeah.
you, as a filmmaker and someone who has the festival, bringing such stories to life and educating the world.
Yeah.
So thank you
It's the whole
for.
reason I got involved in this. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. You don't even have to thank me. I'm glad that connected with you. It's the whole reason I got into film business to begin with was because of that, that human centric connection that we have. I mean, I'm an older guy, but like it was ET for me when I connected with Elliot, Spielberg's Elliot, all those years ago, and I was like, how is it that I'm walking out of this theater as a young boy, like just viscerally connected to this story that's not even this fiction story, about a boy and an alien. And from there, it was just all uphills and downhills. But I'm telling you, having people at DaVinci connect with the stories as they leave the theater is what it's all about.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
It's like connecting with the story while also, bringing forth important topics
Yeah.
and subjects that people don't have awareness of or education of necessarily.
Yeah.
Here, sometimes in this country, we take for granted or we, don't realize just exactly what the rest of the world is struggling
Yes.
through. And so it's important. It's like, because that's one of the great things about the film festivals is it brings together all of these different cultural perspectives. It allows us to really to kind of open our eyes to
Yeah.
things that we, as Americans don't
Yeah.
oftentimes think of or consider or couldn't even fathom.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you watch a film like that, you think, okay, if it's this difficult for me emotionally processing this, what about how it must be for the people that are actually
Yes.
living this,
Oh,
right?
you're right. And that's exactly what I experienced
Mhm.
from
Mhm.
watching that. It was like, I can't believe this happens in this is the 21st century and it's happening in the world.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have a lot of films nowadays that are, formulaic or very predictable and unrelatable that way. I mean, I'm as a screenwriter myself, I try to write for character and being able to connect with the human condition. So, but there's a value to um, every one of the films that we screen at DaVinci, um, and the heart that goes into to making these things. It's a small miracle to see a picture at any festival nowadays. I think, uh, much less make one.
I
Mhm.
know one of the films I wasn't there during the second night was the Persian Rug with I think Sean Kanan, and that's another one where I think he was playing the
Mhm.
role of I don't know if he was a senator, I don't remember, but that's another good one that won an award as well.
Yeah, we had a lot of films that had. I don't want to say social justice themed, but like we had a lot of films that were really, uh, you know, d- delivering a message, and I think most people connected with it. The Persian Rug was another beautiful picture that was in our short block, but we had a number of them. Yeah.
So you grew up in Colorado, correct? You grew up in Colorado as a
Yes.
young. So tell us, how did growing up
Mhm.
in Colorado, now you're in Canada, did you always have that in you that you were going to become a screenwriter, a filmmaker? How did you start?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I love telling the story, and I kind of teased it a moment ago with Spielberg's film. But yeah, I was born and raised in Colorado. I was born in Denver, raised in Steamboat, and uh, my journey really started in as a creative in the early '80s when I used to live on a long dirt road on a farm, and I had a small theater at the end of that dirt road, and I took my $1.50 or $2, whatever it was at the time, to go watch a matinee, and it was Spielberg's E.T. And at that moment, I just fell in love with I fell in love with storytelling. Um, and so through my formative years, I would write and do what I could to articulate the way I felt as a young man, and story, and all the dreams and everything that comes with that. Um, and then I grew up a little bit. I went to school. I went to school in Boston, actually, and then from
Where did you go
Boston,
to school in Boston?
um, oh yeah, I went to Harvard. So I was in Cambridge
Nice.
for a
That's
while,
Wonderful. I
beautiful.
grew
and
up in Boston.
yeah, let's talk about Boston after I get done with this story, because that's I love it too. Um, the But from there, I went to LA, and after I graduated, and worked on both sides of the camera there, trying to just dig back into what I loved about telling stories, and it's been a part of my DNA ever since. Um, but really quickly, on as a sidebar with Boston, it's a cheat in all of my films that I write nowadays, because Boston is such an incredible character in every every part of my films, from the people to the city. So it's an easy cheat as a screenwriter to write about Boston. But I do miss it. I do miss it. Even the bad weather, the crazy weather that we got there. It's a very special part of my life.
Good.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what was like the first real experience that you had, I guess, working directly in film? Was that something that you produced, wrote yourself? Like what really
Hmm.
like made you go, okay, now I'm going full throttle into this?
Yeah, it was rejection. I was
Wow.
working in Hollywood for a long time, and I just constantly could not find the traction.
Uh-huh.
I went through the traditional methods to get my
Yeah.
my SAG card, and I was
Mm-hmm.
extra on some old TV shows, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
um, worked it and never found the traction. And so at one point, I guess this is just part of my A-type alpha personality, as I said, I gotta take control of my career if I'm going to do anything out here. So
I
Wow.
this was
like that.
probably
Yes.
early 2000s when I picked up my first camera, and I said, I'm going to write my own short film. I'm going to take a swing at this and
Yeah.
see if I even have the chops. So it was at that time, and it was before we had all of these fancy things that can do anything nowadays. But I had to recruit a small group of people to convince them that I knew what I was doing, which I didn't, and go make a movie. And so we're talking 2001 to 2004 ish. I kind of dove into the deep end with just like, what does it mean to shoot or direct? What does it mean to produce? I mean, all I had at that point was some experience as an actor in like student films and a few TV shows. So I fell in love again. I kind of had this kind of born again or rebirth of you know of love of the industry,
I love
when
that.
I could see a small picture come together, and I just was able to be like, grab a camera, go shoot something, tell a story, good or bad, and um, and then put it in front of people.
Wow.
But I struggled at first with a lot of ego attached to that, because you want to deliver something where somebody connects with it, or loved it. And that wasn't the case at first either. So I took a lot of hits, and eventually started creating film and short films that went on to do really well. And that was kind of my break into the festival circuit as well, if I can kind of matriculate, is that I was creating these films, these short films, and I had done a series of them, maybe close to 10 of them, that went on to win all the big awards in film
Wow.
festivals. But
That's beautiful.
um, but it never moved the needle with my career. Like, as a filmmaker, as an indie filmmaker, you go to these festivals with a project, you see it on the screen as an official selection, you win the awards or whatever it is. Now, granted, I am an introvert, so I kind of try to sneak out quickly, but they, even when you do well in the festival circuit, the idea is that your career scales. You meet a producer, you meet a studio, you meet an executive, you meet, what you meet people that want to get attached to your project and either create a feature or whatever. And it wasn't doing it for me. So um, I saw a problem that I felt needed to be solved, and that's kind of when I dove into to create DaVinci.
Wow.
I like that.
It is such a
That's
beautiful
beautiful.
story, and also such great advice for
Yes.
all creatives out there, that
Yeah.
sometimes I think what you've just shared to me, and it's so meaningful, is you basically own your own story,
Mm-hmm.
and you are not waiting
Yeah.
to be chosen. You chose
Yeah.
yourself. And
Yeah.
that is just beautiful advice for everyone out there listening to this.
Yeah, and it's motivating because like I love that he's talking about like he decided to take control of his
Yes.
life because I always say to people like, like your life, like you are literally the director, the writer
Yes.
of your life,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And you have to be willing
Yeah.
to sometimes take those risks and to do
Yeah.
those trailblazing things, but also to the formation of, the
Yes.
Da Vinci Film Festival is like finding like coming from the perspective of somebody who was an actor who had who had, worked
Yes.
in the industry and was able to identify, look, this is what's missing, right?
Yeah.
Because now you've created something that is so valuable
Yeah.
to other,
Filmmakers,
filmmakers,
and it's
yeah,
worldwide.
actors, people who are really, putting in the
Yeah.
work there. And so it's like, and that's a beautiful place to come from because you understand and knew what the needs are that were
Yeah.
not being met, and you're able to provide that for others. That's a great
It's a great,
place.
I think also because you're a screenwriter, he's an
Mm-hmm.
actor, you're a
He's
director,
in
so
all
producer, so
areas.
you've done all of it. And what I really like about what you've shared as well, it reminds me, we had Bob Gale, who, from Back to the Future. He was on the podcast last season,
Mm.
and he shared the same thing. People look at Back to the Future and they say, oh, it's this blockbuster. But he was rejected 30 something times. And it's exactly what you just shared,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
that sometimes you get the rejection, but you knew you had a story and you wrote your script, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. It's like because the
Yeah.
rejection was just
Thank you for saying that.
redirection.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I can't take all the credit. A lot of this is hardwired from my old man. He is a very strong entrepreneur, and I think part of me was uh, just I don't live a passive life, and I don't trust other people to kind of steer the ship for me. So um, I was incited to dive in. And whenever I talk to filmmakers and creatives just in general, that's the kind of grounded conversation I love to have with them because everybody's got story, and it's like how do you get that out to really feel connected with others through your story? And so I love that about the festival circuit. I think that there are other ways to do that outside of the festival circuit, but um, I just want to encourage, and I say this as much for myself as a fellow other fellow filmmakers, is that just to stay with it. Persistence is the key to this. And for the longest time, every time that I would watch the award shows, and I started feeling just a measure of dread, I guess, because I was getting older and I wasn't where I thought I would be in Hollywood. But as you get older, you get more confident too. So the confidence kind of helps build a platform for you to be successful in your creative endeavors. At least it has for me. But I for the longest time I'd watch these award shows and I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm just when is my time? When do I get to be recognized on at that scale? And eventually, when I realized that that wasn't important, is when things started opening up for me, and I felt like just free to really be creative in my work. So that's what I try to. That's the small message that I try to deliver to my fellow um, climbers. Because that's what we're doing. Everybody wants the view, but not the climb. But I think the people that are climbing are making a difference.
What you've just shared,
Sounds
it's
great.
just incredible. Also, people would think like you went to Harvard. Obviously, with an Ivy League degree, you would think you will have, it would be a lot easier for you to,
Mhm.
just climb through the top because you have an Ivy League degree. But a lot of people have a hard time coping with rejection. So, what is your advice to actors, creatives in general, to navigate such a complex industry, right?
Yeah.
Mm, that's the question, right? That's the question.
I'm like, we all
Well,
want to know the answer to this one.
Yes.
We're all waiting.
We do.
I wish I had the answer for that. I can tell you this: I was broke after Harvard. Like, nobody gave me a handout. I didn't have any jobs lined up. I didn't have anything. All I had was a degree, and I remember calling the school at one point and saying, "Hey, look, I'll give you this paper back to erase the debt that I now have because of that university. Because Hollywood doesn't care where you went to school, you know." And so for me, it was really about finding the traction within myself. Like, everybody has something to offer. So if you're a creative soul and you just have to get it out of your system, like, what is it? Put a pen to paper. Just spend some time with getting ideas out of your head. And so, to kind of answer your question, I would say the best thing for people to do is to just count on themselves. And then once you have that kind of like body of work, and it doesn't have to be professional screenplay, it doesn't have to be a proof of concept, it doesn't have to be a film. It just has to be a way of you feeling fulfilled and satiated through your creativity on paper, even, or painting or sculpture, however you want to do it. And then you build on that, and then you're like, okay, well, what's the next step that I need? Back when I was trying to be a filmmaker, like, I'm still trying to be a filmmaker, so that was dumb. But, like, back when I was really only a filmmaker and that's all that I wanted to do, and be an actor and that's all that I wanted to do, I was relying on submitting headshots on my, I would, I would, what was it called? The Backstage West. I can't remember now, but I would grab that Backstage West and I'd go to the back and I'd look for the casting breakdown, and uh, I had my lithographs and my resume that was super thin, by the way, and I'd shove them in an envelope. I had a rubber stamp that said requested material, and I would mail it off to all of these casting directors and people. And I was sitting at like Baja Fresh doing this. And so, it's just like you take control of what you want in this business, and you find and you don't rely on the machine to get you through. Now, that's not to say, I know this is long winded, so I'm sorry, but I mean, that's not to say that you don't have your wolf pack eventually in this business, because when you have those guys that are there and climbing that mountain with you and supporting you, then it's like there's nothing in your way. There's nothing in the way. And you can achieve such a great amount of success that way, even if you're not on an Oscar stage. So, uh, oh my gosh, I could talk forever about Hollywood and the grind, because it's part of the business and it's a beautiful part, even if it's painful.
Mhm.
I think you're sharing what a lot of
Yeah.
people don't usually talk about.
Yeah, I think
And
it's great.
it's great. And what I also liked about what you shared earlier was about awards. People are watching the awards, and it's like,
Yes.
you're, basically happy for everyone. But the truth is, you've just said it. And when you watch it, it's almost like, but what about me? What's wrong with
Yep.
me? So it's a
Yep.
double-edged
Mhm.
sword, right? Where you're watching some people
Yep.
get to
Yeah,
the pinnacle of
exactly.
this, but yet it's almost unattainable. It's the unspoken that a lot of people don't really talk about because, but thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Eve, I'm so with you on that, because that's one of the things I wanted to do about with DaVinci as well. Was Let me back up by saying this. When we watch too much news, we eventually get like completely depressed because news is just all so negative nowadays. And then when you cut that out of your diet, you start to feel better about yourself, or you start to feel better about just not being connected, right? Well, for a while, for me, that was what the award shows were. I had to stop watching because I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not there. Why does this mean that I'm not, you know, doing it right? I guess. And that's not the case at all. So at DaVinci, what I wanted is I wanted to bring that kind of Golden Globes feel to the platform. You know, if you were to think about the Oscars and the Golden Globes, Oscars is really formal, right? People are in their seat, they're staying still or sitting still. Whereas the Golden Globes, where you look around, people are at commercial break, you know, getting up and making deals and hugging it out and drinking champagne, and it's just this film family. Well, at DaVinci, that's what I wanted to add. I wanted to give that kind of like feeling to the independent community which is why we stay small, so that we can have that moment and we can celebrate those people and say, hey, look, you may not be at the, you know, the Hilton hotel, but like we're here at the Grove and this kicks ass and you kick ass and we're going to do more of this. And we celebrate that way.
It was a beautiful location, and it's also something that you started with your wife, and your kids are
Oh,
also involved as
amazing.
well, right?
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. It's a family affair. They've been very patient with all my craziness in starting these companies. I've got a couple, and but my kids have been with, you know, I've got two, and my boy is the youngest chairman in the festival circuit, and he spearheads our animation department. And my daughter, she spearheads the Junior Leo program that we have at DaVinci, as well as an ultra short category. So it's pretty cool, and it's very cool, and I love seeing them in front of people and giving the awards and just being a part of that culture. It's pretty awesome as a daddy.
What a rewarding experience.
Yes, and they're young. I mean, I don't
Mm.
know how old they are. I think they're like teenagers, if I, you know, but
Wow.
it was
Yep.
amazing to see that it's a family
Yeah.
affair.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. So what's
Yeah.
next for you? What are you, besides the, going to, Africa, what else are you working on?
So I really bifurcate my life. Well, I split my life into my film and television, writing and directing, love and passion with the live event, a platform, DaVinci. DaVinci's growing. So I mentioned a little bit about how we're growing internationally with the labs. We're also going to be launching a new product up here in Whistler, BC, shortly, which is exciting. But I want to get back, because there are only so many hours in a day. I want to get back to spending more time writing and directing. I just love it, and I could drop every cliche here, um, but it's where I feel the most fulfilled. And so I had written a number of projects actually before COVID that have landed back on my desk, clear title. So I'm looking at those again and maybe try to find some traction with some of those features and TV projects. But I'm going to camera with a short film, a proof of concept, in February. So I guess next month, and uh, it revisits a character in a feature film that I wrote for an A-lister not too long ago, later on in her life, and pretty excited about sharing this story soon. I wish I could say more about it, but I can't.
We understand. That
Yeah,
is so great. Well, I know that I've appreciated
yeah,
a lot of just kind of these topics and things, especially the story of how you've gotten to where you are, right? Because I think so many people that, think about it, they want to go into entertainment, all these things, right? They have no idea, right? And what really goes into it. So to have
Yes.
somebody who's
mhm,
accomplished so much and that has worked in all areas of it, it's like those are the valuable insights that people need to know,
Yeah.
because it's not to discourage anybody for
Yeah.
anything, but it's like if you understand and you know the certain types of challenges you may face, right?
Yes.
Or to prepare mentally, right? Like I just absolutely love how, you know, he's he said straight up, like he took
Very
rejection and
transparent.
he
Yeah.
allowed that to redirect him to kind of what exactly his greater and higher purpose is, right?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Because so many people, it's like they sit around waiting for the right opportunity, or they, waiting for this big break or whatever it may
Yes.
be. But no, in actuality, the people who are able to make things happen are the ones who are taking,
The risks.
yeah, they're taking the risk. And, they understand, look, I'm the one who's steering the ship here.
Yes.
If I want this to get to my destination, sometimes you need to be willing to do that yourself.
And I think sometimes a lot of people will not understand this, that if you're not in the industry, even some of the most famous actors decided to start, they're basically producing a lot of their material, and then they
Yeah.
collaborate or partner
others.
with a lot of the studios as well. And
Yeah.
people do not understand that. That's how a lot of people become very successful, by that collaboration. You start partnering with studios. I mean, it's a very difficult industry, but I think just him being very transparent
Yeah.
is just
Absolutely.
incredible for people to know.
I would just love to, leave you with this. If this is our closing tag here, is that not to, I would tell my friends, my film family, the people I don't even know that are hustling in this business and trying to keep the lights on, is that, you know, don't lose sight of who you are. I mean, what we do in this business is what we do in the business. And there's skill sets that come with that. And there's ways to articulate that and get something on the screen. But kind of the meat and potatoes behind it all is who you are, and that's special, not for everybody. Not everybody's special. I've met a lot of them in Hollywood that aren't. But I will say this, that there are some that, but don't lose sight of that. And that's like, come to DaVinci, or yeah, I haven't been to another festival like it, but like if you come to DaVinci, you'll notice that that's like, we hug and we're there and we want to learn about you and what makes you tick and the stories you love to tell. Because Eve, like you just said, it does become about network. It does become about people. But if you're walking into a room to pitch to somebody and you're not comfortable in your own skin, it's not gonna play out the way that you hope. At least it hasn't in my experience. So it's really about being grounded, know who you are, and that creative stuff that comes out in our film work and our screenplays, and uh, it becomes intrinsic. It's something that you can't. It's part of you. You end up having this beautiful presence in front of creatives, and so I like to focus on who we are, and then those stories just come out organically.
Wow, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
What I also like
Yeah.
about your story is it's a family affair.
Yeah.
We easily get lost in this industry.
Yeah.
But I think what a lot of folks can take out of this conversation is you bring it back home. Those are the people that matter, and you enjoy working with your family. That's the core of what really matters. You're doing something that you love, but with the people you love to do it with, regardless of the collaborations you have with other creatives as well. Because at the core
Yeah.
of this, we can go out and become very, very successful. But at the end of the day, you need to surround yourself with the people who matter the most. Otherwise, you get lost.
Well, yeah, and that ties into like what he was saying about like, staying just true and authentic to who you are, like family, the people who really know you, that's what keeps you grounded and in yourself. It's like, and I think that's a beautiful thing because it's like then your creative expression, it's purely who you are.
Yeah.
Because and I know you've seen it too. We see a lot of people sometimes, it's almost like, you watch people change over the years and you're
Oh,
like, okay,
yes.
but it's not necessarily them growing into who
Yeah.
they want to be as much as who they think they need to be to accomplish X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Right? But the beauty of what makes people who they are is exactly that, just who you are.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think we had a conversation earlier, and Roger was part of it. You don't see Roger, but Roger has been a publicist for 44 years. He started at the industry when he was 19, 20. So he's seen it all. But one of the things that, like, Roger is my publicist as well. And Roger would tell you this, and I really love this about him, is at the core of it, it's his family and his roots, where he comes from. He's never lost sight of that.
Yeah.
People come into Hollywood and they get lost, right? And so, I mean, that to me has been a beautiful conversation. And I'll tell you one takeaway that I'll share is again, it's just my own perception. Coming from Harvard, I thought all the opportunities would be a lot easier because you have an Ivy League. So you just shared something that, so thank you. So Roger is actually there with the 3-minute mark. The last question would be, if you were to have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh, 3 minutes?
I go because I'm like, I know it's great. I see the wheels turning.
Yeah. I have to say, my grandparents would take 2 of those spots. I miss them dearly, and they have a lot to do with who I am today. And I'm going to see them again at some point. And then if I were to pick somebody here, I don't know, it would be Taylor Sheridan or Darren Aronofsky. These are some of my biggest influences in the work that I do. And it's kind of keeps me drinking the coffee and chasing the brass ring.
Thank
That's
you.
a tough question, though, Eve. That was unfair. 3 minutes late.
Chadwick, thank you so much for such an inspiring conversation.
Yes.
Very insightful, and thank you for all what you're doing with the DaVinci Film Festival, International Film Festival, bringing all of the stories from all over the world to life. Thank you for continuing to support the community, Carla. This has been an amazing episode.
For having me.
Of course, and I really enjoyed it. Roger, thank you for producing. Archer, thank you so much for working behind the cameras. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to watch this episode with Chadwick on the Discovery Pod with Eve's YouTube channel or on the various podcast platforms. Again, watch us every Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. You never know who's going to stop by. Again, Chadwick, thank you so much for such an inspirational.
Thank you.
And Carla, thank you for co-hosting.
Thank you.